Welcome everyone. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss the art of managing up. But first, let me tell you how this material came about. I've worked in all capacities. I've been a regular employee, a supervisor, a manager, and owner of 2 companies. My interest in the concept of managing up, or two-way management as I also call it, began a few years ago when, as director of my department, I had to listen to my employees constantly complaining about their problems with their supervisors. I realized then that perhaps the cause of the problem was not only the supervisors, but how they, the employees themselves, interacted with them. That's when I decided that the employees, and not just their supervisors, needed a course on management. But since there was no such course available from anyone, I designed and taught the course myself. At first, the employees were skeptical. They thought this was another talk reminding them to follow orders from their superiors, under the threat of negative consequences. But as the lecture proceeded, they realized that the techniques I was teaching them were for their own benefit and ultimately for the benefit of everyone concerned. The course was successful and contributed to greater morale, more productivity, and more harmonious environment in the workplace. I compiled my thoughts and findings about two-way management in this presentation, and now I'm sharing them with you. No matter what position you hold in the hierarchy of your organization, I am confident that the application of the techniques I'm about to discuss are what you need to learn to create the kind of relationships and the conditions you desire for yourself in your workplace. Managing up does not mean shifting authority from the boss to the person below him or her, and it should not be thought of as political maneuvering. It's a concept by which the responsibility of the outcome of the interactions between superiors and subordinate employees is equally shared by both sides. Not being able to effectively manage up can result in misunderstandings and even animosity. Even when looking at it from a purely self-serving perspective, you can be sure that you cannot advance in your career if you don't handle your relationship with your boss successfully. Whether the person above you is your supervisor, your manager, the head of your department, the company director, your regional director, or even the CEO of a multinational corporation, if you want to move up in your career, get the satisfaction from your job that you desire, and make the kind of living you may need or want, you have to learn how to manage them. In a perfect world, people in charge would be more knowledgeable than their subordinates in handling situations. But this is not a perfect world. Many people in charge of others sometimes are unwilling or unable to apply the principles of good leadership, and their interactions with their employees sometimes are disastrous. The concepts we will discuss in this presentation are not meant to relieve people in charge of their responsibility to conduct business with their employees according to the most effective managerial skills, but it does make you as responsible for the successful interactions with them as they are with you. We have all heard many times that we are responsible for our own actions. We usually don't hear them say that we are responsible for other people's actions as well. And yet, to some extent, we are. That's strange, you might say. If I'm responsible for my actions, isn't everyone else responsible for theirs? Yes, because we are all self-determined beings with the ability to make choices in the way we behave, and ultimately, everyone is responsible for their actions. But our actions usually determine the actions of others in the form of reaction. Actually, if we want to get philosophical, each one of us does very little real acting. Most of what we call acting is really reacting. We usually react to situations, and we react to other people's reactions to situations. So, whether you're aware of it or not, Your approach often determines the other person's reaction, and their approach determines yours. Ultimately, listen carefully, ultimately everyone is 100% responsible for the way an interaction plays out. 100%. So, to the extent that someone's reaction affects you, it becomes your responsibility to you, doesn't it? If you believe it isn't so, then what you are doing is giving others power over you. Becoming aware of the fact that you are responsible for the way an interaction turns out is a great realization. In the context of our discussion, it means that you can actually determine ahead of time how your superior is going to respond to you. You know that you can never change anyone. Hopefully, you also know that you have the ability and the option to change yourself. But by changing yourself, you change how the others respond to you. Think about it, because it's an amazing power. If you use it correctly, you can get people to do almost anything you want them to do for you. In the case of your boss, he or she will be compelled to grant you what you reasonably want. Knowing that you have this power is only the beginning. The purpose of this presentation is to teach you the techniques that will make this knowledge work for you. In every interaction, the first and probably most important prerequisite is to set the right tone. Who sets the tone? Everyone involved. That, of course, includes you. What contributes to the tone? Your demeanor, the words you use, the tone of your voice, your body language, and your intent. Sooner or later, what you intend will come through in spite of you. It will color your actions and affect the way the people you are interacting with will respond to you. Is it your intent to confront the person? Is it to make the other person feel inadequate or wrong? Or is it to state a fact and find a workable solution? Ask yourself what your intent is. Be conscious and clear about it, and let it guide your thoughts, your words, and your actions. The right tone paves the way to a successful interaction. An effective tool for setting the right tone is a warm and genuine greeting. Everyone needs to be acknowledged. When you greet someone, you tell them that you notice them. This makes them feel good about you. Of course, the way you greet is important. You have to make eye contact. You have to watch the words you use, the tone of your voice, your body language, and your intent.
Good morning, Mr. Jones.
Good morning.
If your greeting is effective, the rest of your interaction should proceed smoothly. During your interaction, you also want to show respect for the other person. Respect is behavior intended to please. It is an expression by word or action of esteem. A person that feels respected feels that you have high regard for him or her. They feel honored. Somewhere I read that there are behaviors that create a sort of vacuum. They create an incomplete circle, and the people involved will not rest until the circle is completed and the vacuum is filled. Respect is one of these behaviors. A person that feels respected feels obligated to give something back in return. If you show genuine respect for the person you're interacting with, you are well on your way to succeeding in getting what you want. Most things come in some kind of package, and often our feelings about them are based on a reaction to the package that contains them. Humans are packaged too. We are first packaged in our bodies. So the way we take care of our bodies affects the way others respond to us as individuals. We are also packaged in our clothes. The clothes we choose to wear give others an indication of what we are like inside. True, sometimes the impression clothes give is incorrect, but that doesn't matter. Those who don't know us well have nothing else to go by to assess our worth except for our appearance. If we want to make a good impression, we cannot ignore how the clothes we wear are going to affect it. Another interesting fact about the way we dress is that it influences the way we act. When we wear jeans and a polo shirt, we move and act differently than when we wear a suit and tie. So depending on the situation and the effect we want to create, we have to choose appropriate clothing. For example, if our goal is to assert a certain level of authority, we are going to wear a suit and tie. And this suit will probably be dark in color. Take care of yourself and wear clean and appropriate clothing. It's hard to be rude to a well-dressed individual. Your boss will respond to the visual you. Of course, the state of your body and the appropriateness of your clothes are not enough to create a good impression. You are also packaged with attitudes. If your attitude is negative, everything else will fail. What is attitude? Attitude is a complex mental state involving beliefs, feelings, and values which dispose you to act in certain ways. If your beliefs, feelings, and values are inadequate for you to get what you want from your boss, you might have to modify them. Attitude changes the environment. Interact with someone with a chip on your shoulder, and the person will most likely respond defensively. Approach someone with friendliness and cooperation, and the person is likely to respond in kind. People often point to others as the cause of their own attitude. But attitude is never someone else's responsibility. People and situations might influence the attitude you choose to adopt, but ultimately, the attitude you adopt is a choice you make entirely on your own. Be aware of your power to choose your attitude. The more you exercise it, the more in control you will be, and you will never feel victimized again. There are different ways to present your case to a boss. One way is to complain. But if you go to your boss with a complaint, chances are that he or she will not listen to you. Worse than that, they will find their own things to complain about. And guess whom they are likely to complain about? You. And the outcome of the meeting will not be favorable to you. By complaining, you accuse the other person of wrongdoing. And we all know that no one likes to have their finger pointed at them. On the other hand, you can present your case as a request. Presenting it in this way will maximize your chances for you to get what you want. When you request something, you make the other person feel important and powerful. Chances are that they will try everything in their power to grant you what you want. It's a win-win situation. They feel important, and you get what you want. So even if you have a legitimate complaint, change it into a request. Instead of saying something like, "You always call on me when there's extra work to do," say something like, "I would like for you not to call on me every time there is extra work to do because," and state your reasons. Instead of saying, "You're always yelling and disrespecting me," say something like, "I would like you not to yell at me, but to tell me what you want me to do in a more respectful manner. I would really appreciate that." You can even add something like, "It has nothing to do with you. It's just how it affects me. I will respond more pleasantly if you approach me more respectfully. What you are doing is setting the bar on how you want your bosses to treat you. If you complain, they will treat you as a complainer. If you approach them with requests, they will follow your example and will come to you with requests instead of complaints. Be aware of your complaints. Whether your issues have to do with personal matters or with work procedures, turn them into suggestions. Go to your boss with solutions instead of problems. By focusing on what you want instead of on what you don't like, you will get the attention and the results you desire.
Mr. Jones, why do you always call me when there's extra work to do?
Don't you ever do anything else but complain?
Mr. Jones, do you have a minute?
Sure.
Mr. Jones, I don't mind if you have extra work that you need me to do, but it seemed to me that you're not calling anyone else. I'm always here for you if you need me, but I would appreciate you spreading the work more evenly. I hope you can understand this.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that. I'll keep that in mind for next time.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Anyone in charge of other people is responsible for letting them know what they expect of them in terms of performance and behavior. Subordinates have the right to let their superiors know about their own expectations of them as well. For example, they should make them aware of their need to communicate as clearly and detailed as possible what procedures they should follow in order to accomplish their tasks in a way that will satisfy them.
Mr. Jones, I want to do the best job that I can for you. And in order to do that, I would like to know exactly what you expect of me. Could we have a short meeting to go over this at your early convenience?
You know, I like your approach. That sounds like a good idea. How about you schedule that with my assistant?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Second, if the people in charge of you are rude, disrespectful, unfair, or unprofessional in any way in their dealings with you, you should let them know. As much as you have the right to let your superiors know about your expectations and your requests, things can still get touchy and tricky. That's where timing becomes extremely important. Stopping your boss in the hallway and expecting his or her attention when they might have other things in mind and other matters to attend to is not a good idea.
Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones! Mr. Jones, I have to leave work early. Something came up.
Don't you see what I'm doing? What's the emergency?
Something came up.
Approaching your boss first thing in the morning is a bad idea, and trying to get their attention when they are getting ready to go home at the end of their workday might not work either. Approaching them with questions at the wrong time is not going to get you what you want. You have to find the right time. Often timing is everything. So make time work for you. The best way is to request an appointment, preferably through their assistant. Then you know that he or she will try to give you their undivided attention. At that point, use the techniques that we've been discussing, and your likelihood of getting what you reasonably want will be maximized. You're probably saying to yourself, this all sounds like I have to do the job my superiors should be doing. They are the ones getting the big bucks. Right. They are probably getting the big bucks and you're not. Guess what? If you don't take the lead, others will continue to get the big bucks and you are going to continue to get the pocket change. Waiting on other people to do what you think is fair, right, even professional, and so on, is not going to get you anywhere. Whether your life is good or bad, blaming anyone else will not bring you the changes you desire. You are the initiator of your experiences. The sooner you realize that your life is in your hands, the sooner you'll be in control. So stop expecting your bosses to act in a certain way. Shoulds lead nowhere. Act with them the way you think they should be acting with you. If you are in a supervisory or managerial position, act the way you would like the employees below you to act with you. Take the initiative to greet. Take the initiative to set the proper tone. And take the initiative to talk about expectations. Remember, you are setting the bar. One of the main problems in our interactions is bad communication or no communication at all. Good communication skills are the basis of success in almost every interaction. Communication is a two-way process. It entails talking, but it also includes listening. Real listening is the capacity to hear actively. We listen when our intent is to understand, and we pay close attention when our objective is to gain the knowledge necessary to come to some reasonable solution. Many times we seem to listen, but we don't. As the other person is talking, we are talking too. It's impossible to talk and really listen at the same time. Sometimes we might appear to concentrate on what the other person is saying, but in reality, we are not listening to them. We are listening to our own internal dialogue. We are contemplating what we are going to say instead of listening with the intention to comprehend fully. Listening is a powerful tool. Once I went on a job interview. The interviewer did all the talking and gave me no chance to express my own thoughts. She asked the questions and she answered them. As hard as it was for me to listen to her monologue, I made a big effort to keep listening and keep my thoughts to myself. The important thing for me at that point was not to articulate my thoughts and my philosophy, but to get the job. About half an hour later, when she had said everything she needed an audience for, she told me that I got the job. Not only did I get the job, but as I was walking out, I overheard her telling one of her colleagues in the office that I was one of the most interesting people she had ever interacted with. Try this technique with your bosses. Try it also on others in your life. Even though you might not have a chance to say much, they will probably have the same experience as me and tell their friends you are the most interesting person they've ever met. This does not mean you should not talk if you are invited to do so. Some people like to listen. If that's the case, by all means, get engaged in the conversation. But even then, try as much as you can to ask open-ended questions and let the other person do most of the talking. If you think that he or she is the kind of person that needs to have the last word, let them have it. Not having the last word does not necessarily mean that you lost the argument or you didn't perform well during the discussion. Having the last word doesn't always make one feel like the winner. Often it has the opposite effect. To stop talking and listen instead takes discipline. So often, talking more and having the last word makes one feel needy and out of control. Another problem when dealing with others is lack of empathy. Empathy is the ability to get into the other person's shoes and understand and feel what they feel. This does not mean that if a person is angry, you must feel angry too. It means understanding the reality of things. If a person is angry, understand just that he's angry. Then think about how you feel when someone makes you angry. What do you need to calm down? You don't want to be opposed.
Every day it's the same thing. Who's calling in sick? Who's calling in an emergency so they can take their girlfriends to the beach? I can't run a business this way.
What's the point of getting upset? You said it yourself, it's the same thing every day.
Did I ask for your opinion?
You want others to validate your feelings. So do the same with others. Let them know that you are aware of their anger. Let them know that you understand how they feel.
I can't run a business this way.
Must be very hard for someone in your position.
You don't have to understand the reasons why. That's not important. They might not have a good reason for feeling the way they do, but they feel that way just the same. Validate those feelings. Never oppose them. Let them vent if that is what they wish to do. Later, you may have a chance to help them understand that there was no reason to feel those feelings in the first place. But they will not listen to you if you fail to empathize with them when they were overwhelmed with that particular emotion.
So do you think it was necessary to lose your temper this morning?
Nah, it wasn't. Getting upset doesn't solve anything.
Try to understand your boss's perspective. Put yourself in their shoes. Many people think that they have an understanding of their boss's goals and pressures. They don't realize that they are humans like everyone else with strengths, weaknesses, aspirations, pressures, and constraints. Exploring these will help you identify similarities you never knew existed and gain a little insight on how to better interact effectively with them. One of the most effective techniques when trying to establish a good relationship is the use of compliments. Tell your boss what is working. Use praise for your boss when you feel it is true. When you praise on a regular basis, it helps the boss to keep doing the things you are pleased with. Relationships are some of the most difficult things to manage, but they are also necessary. We are social beings, and we cannot live normally and fully when isolated from other human beings. A person who can't or doesn't want to relate to anyone is dysfunctional. Relating cannot be avoided. It's part of the human condition. You cannot fight it. You have to accept it and learn the best ways to deal with it, which is what this presentation has been about. So build good rapport. A rapport is a sign of sympathetic compatibility and a feeling of mutual understanding or trust. When rapport is established, two or more people think as one. When people think as one, there are no disagreements or strife. When there is no strife, there is harmony. When there is harmony, there is opportunity for growth, the essence of our existence. During this presentation, we have defined the concept of managing up or two-way management, what it is and what it's not, and discuss the principles and the techniques you need to understand and apply to establish good relationships with people you have to answer to in your workplace. We discussed responsibility and determined that everyone involved is 100% responsible for the outcome of an interaction. We discussed the importance of setting the proper tone through a cordial greeting, a sense of respect, and proper physical care and appearance. We emphasized the role attitude plays and the difference between a complaint and a request. We outlined the responsibility for expressing expectations and how timing can easily determine the positive or negative outcome of an interaction. We touched on the concept of leadership and who has to display it. We stressed the importance of effective communication with special emphasis on the value of listening. We explained empathy. We mentioned the value of giving compliments. And we ended with the insistence on the need to build good rapport, which is the sum total of the application of all we discussed. As we come to the end of this presentation, I want to urge you one more time to apply the principles and techniques we have discussed. Use them with the other people in your life beside your bosses. Chances are you will experience a sense of genuine power and never feel victimized again by your boss or anyone else in your life. It does not matter where you are in your career ladder. Be effective where you are now. Set the bar. Take the lead. People will notice. Thank you and good luck.